Hey, good evening. How you doing? How's everybody doing this evening? My name is Lee Love, and this is Photo Mentor Friday edition Q&A, where we answer your questions on all things photo related. If this is the first time you've joined us here, thanks for joining us live. If you're watching on the replay, no problem. Happy to have you here as well. You can ask questions during the show by leaving comments in both the YouTube or Facebook stream. If you're on either one of those pages, just put them in the comments section. And if you're watching on the replay and you want to leave a question and you want to enter something for next week's show, or just to get a question answered, you can always send an email to help@photomentor.tv, and I'll do my best to answer that question for you. So anyway, hope everyone's having a good evening. Again, this is we do this every Friday night. If this is the first time you've been here, every Friday night at 9 p.m. Eastern. I guess that'd be 6 p.m. Pacific time. And if you're in other parts of the world, that would be 0200 Greenwich Mean Time or Universal Coordinated Time, depending on if you're old school or not. So anyway, I'm glad you're here. I really am. The purpose of this show is really to help educate, encourage, and mentor new photographers. I started this because I just saw too many groups and people that were just kind of I don't know, dismissing or demeaning to new photographers, and I just felt that there needed to be a place for them to be able to ask questions and get solid answers. I don't know all the answers, but I've been doing this an awful long time as a commercial photographer, photojournalist. I worked as a photojournalist and then also in the television industry. So got a lot of experience, and I'm willing to share that freely with anyone that would like to ask a question. So anyway, my goal is really to see you successful. I want to see you, whatever that may be for your photography goals, whether that's personal, creative, business. Just want to see you explore those opportunities the best you can. So anyway, let's see what we got we got an agenda tonight. We got some things going on. I'll kind of go over them. It's kind of going to be a fun show. We're doing something a little different tonight. I think you guys are going to appreciate. Oh, also, if you want to support what we're doing, I would really appreciate it if you would like the Facebook page and, of course, the YouTube channel. That would be terrific. And most importantly, share that with other photographers that you think are in need of additional help and expertise, have questions to get them started and get them on the right track. So anyway, so let's see here. Well, we got a couple things going on tonight. The first thing is I've got a couple of announcements. The first one is going to be, we've got a couple things going on here, kind of cool. That will be I'm doing a Lightroom workshop. Now, what happened here, the reason this got started was because I talked to a lot of photographers and asked them, new photographers, what were the one single thing you were struggling with as a new photographer? And I got, pretty typical answers, things that I expected people to say. But one of the top three were editing problems. They're just having struggles with learning how to edit or what software to use or whatever. And so because I teach Lightroom and Photoshop, and help people that have problems with the specifically Lightroom, a lot of problems in managing their files, I figured, you know what, I'm just going to put together an hour long or longer, depending on what kind of questions you guys ask, workshop that we'll do live. This will be, instead of on the third week, instead of on the show we're going to do on January 29th, there will be a live workshop. Now, let me explain this to you. There will not be a show that night. There will not be a show on January 29th on Friday. What will happen is there will be a workshop. The workshop will not be on Facebook. You'll have to go and register to photomentoracademy.com/Lightroom, and then you'll get the link to that where that workshop's going to be. I originally was going to just do a Friday one, but it depends on how many people register. I may also do a Saturday at 2 p.m. Session as well. I'm not sure if that's going to be a replay or whether it's going to be live yet. Just depends on what kind of demand we get. But anyway, so if you're interested in editing, if you're interested in Lightroom, if you're struggling, having problems with it, be sure and register for a photo academy, photomentoracademy.com/Lightroom. Go there, put in your name, and you'll get the information on where that link is going to be for that workshop. Love to have you there. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. You guys will get to see me crash and burn live, but it'll be a nice thing. It'll be question and answer. You'll be able to ask questions. And so if there are things you want to know that I'm not covering, you're welcome to just ask away. Okay, let's see what else we got. We also have, most people don't know, I kind of haven't made this really that public. We also have a separate group for Photo Mentor TV, which is a private group on Facebook. And it started real small. We have about 108 members, I think, right now, which is fine with me. But this is a small group of people, and I'm not looking to grow this thing into 10,000 members, kind of a thing. I'd rather keep it small and really focused, because I do put a lot of effort into helping people and answering questions. I do tutorials on there, video tutorials, interviews, things like that. We're going to be doing a lot of cool stuff this year. But anyway, if you're interested, what I've done is I've set up, now don't take this wrong, I've set up an application you have to fill out. So if you go to photomentor.tv/join, that will redirect you to the page and it's not complicated. You just got to put your name and email and your Facebook page URL and your Facebook name. And also, I think, tell me how long you've been shooting and what kind of camera you have. It's not complicated. It's just that I want to know who the people are that are joining the group. And Facebook doesn't allow me to really do that very well. And so that's why I'm set this separate questionnaire up or application. It's important to me that the group really has the right people in it. And I hope that makes sense. In other words, if it gets too big, then I can't help everyone. And I want to be able to do that. That's the whole purpose of the group. So that's the reason for the application. It's not meant to be exclusive or somehow not let people in. But I just want to make sure that people understand that do join, that the problem I've seen in a lot of groups that have the word beginner in them is that, a person will go on there say, hey, I just got my new camera. I have this, and they'll ask a simple question, and people berate them and demean them. And that's just not going to happen. I'm just not going to tolerate that, because that's not the purpose of this group. Also, I don't want people just sending them to links to YouTube's, read YouTube or read the manual. If you're not there to help somebody and you're not there to answer questions, then don't bother joining, because that's not going to work. And you're just going to be, we'll just knock you out of the group. So anyway, again, if you want to join the group, it's a great group. I think you'd like the people that are there. Really, really helpful. Photomentor.tv/join, and that will take you. And we'd love to have you join the group there, as if that's the kind of thing you're looking for. We are looking for some real help from real photographers, not people that want you to show off how much they know. It's not about me. It's not about the other people. It's about you. And that's the whole focus of the group. So anyway, that's the other announcement. And the last announcement is something that we do every Monday, or excuse me, the first Friday of the month. I don't know why I said Monday. And that is, I do a photo review on the first Friday of the month. And it's really a lot of fun. And the way it works is you can submit up to 3 images per month. Okay. The reviews are anonymous. So what will happen is I'll get your email. I'll know who you are. But then what will happen is when I do the review, I will not use your name, and the reason I do that is twofold. Number one, I want to encourage new photographers to submit their work. And look, a lot of people may feel, hey, I'm not been shooting that long. I'm not that good. I don't really want to put my stuff out there. But by doing anonymously, then it doesn't matter. Anybody can submit. I don't care if it's even with an iPhone. You're welcome to submit work of any kind. The other thing is I want to encourage you. And so if there's no names or associated with it, if there's something I want to, tell you about and get you on the right track, then you won't be embarrassed. The images are not reviewed on whether I like them or not. They're reviewed on composition, how they work from a composition standpoint. They reviewed on the technical merit. They overexpose, underexpose, that type of thing, and the subject or the story. How well the you've used this visual language to communicate the subject of the photo. Again, we do this live the first Friday of the month. So, and if you'd like, I'm getting ready to change this. So, but in the meantime, it's probably in the next couple days. But in the meantime, if you want to submit something, you can email me at help@photomentor.tv. In the subject, put the word review. But what I'm actually working on right now is a web page that you can go in and you can put out the necessary information and then upload the file. The only additional information that would be very helpful for me when you email me is that you let me know how long you've been shooting. So I don't want to compare or look at a photo that someone's been, shooting less than a week and be too harsh on that kind of review when somebody that's been shooting for 10 years. So if you just put that in there with the photo, I'd appreciate it. So anyway, hopefully that's great. It's a lot of fun. I encourage you to do that. It's a great learning tool. And I think people have really appreciated it. I know I've enjoyed doing it. I love seeing your work anyway, so it's great. So be sure and submit some stuff for the photo review first Friday of the month, and that would be terrific. Okay, let's see what else. Again, I mentioned before that if you want to ask a question, be sure and we've got a couple already, but be sure and put that in the comment section of the Facebook or the YouTube channel. And we'll bring that up and answer those the best we can. I don't know everything. I don't pretend to know everything. I know a lot, but what I don't know, I can find out or, research for you and give you I get questions like I was helping somebody last night. They're asking me what kind of flash they should buy. And so, I don't know every product out there, but I do get a chance to work with a lot of different products. And so I was recommending some things. They were looking at one thing and I was saying, well, that will work, but here's something that's a little better. And so that's the kind of advice you're going to get if you ask a question from me. It's going to be a solid real world advice. And I'll give you my perspective on why I recommend it, not just that because I use it. I don't recommend things always that I use. I recommend what's right for your application. And so anyway, let's see. I think that's pretty much it. Let's get rolling here. Let's see what we got. We got a couple of questions. Hey, thanks, Mario. You gotta love these guys. I tell you, got some great friends out there. Mario says 100% Lee. So thanks, man. I really appreciate it. It's nice to know that you guys appreciate what's going on and what I do. It's not for me. It's really for you, and hopefully you enjoy it. Let's see what Jessica has to say here. Jessica has a question, and she wants to know. I'm here. I have to catch up to replay loud where I am. It is loud where I am, unfortunately. Well, that's okay, Jessica. You can listen to the replay. Thanks for joining us anyway. And Jessica was one of the people I've been helping, and she's great, really starting out, but I think she's got a lot of talent ahead of her. Oh, I missed. I made a mistake here. I missed something. I apologize. One of the things I want to tell you is that one of the things we're doing tonight is the question and answers, of course. But then the other thing I forgot to mention is I'm going to do something different tonight. I'm going to do what I call lighting forensics. And it's a series. I think I'm going to start doing this on a regular basis. And so for those of you that don't know, I'm almost obsessed with lighting. I just love lighting. I can barely watch a TV show or a movie, especially if it's not very good and I'm kind of bored, but I start looking at the lighting and analyzing the lighting. Lighting is the key. And if anybody's looked at my work, and because I'm a commercial photographer, I light everything I shoot anyway, indoor, outdoor, because it gives me complete control. So to help teach you guys a little bit about lighting, what I'm going to do tonight is I'm going to take a series. I've collected a bunch of magazine, excuse me, magazine and so a couple of book covers, and I'm going to go through those, and I'm going to do my best to break down the lighting the best I can tell. It's 100% accurate, but looking at the lighting, try and tell you what I see going on there, and teach you how to analyze when you see an image like, oh, I really like that image, help you understand what's going on, what kind of lights are used, how big the light is, what direction it's coming from, that kind of stuff. So that's the big thing we're going to be doing tonight. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, so let's get to some of the questions here tonight. Now, a couple of these. Okay, so the first one, I'm not sure if we covered this last week. We might have. A couple of them were, we cut it short a little bit because we were doing the photo reviews, I believe, last week. So I think a couple of these might be repeats, but that's okay. All right, so the first question is about ISO. Can someone please help me help understand ISO? The images are coming out grainy. So let me try and explain what's going on here. And the first thing is, keep in mind that well, here's my approach. The only people that care about grainy pictures or noisy pictures are other photographers. Rarely will your client even notice or care. And especially if you're doing a print, the print actually absorbs a lot of that noise, and you're not going to see it. Now remember, when you're looking at that image, you're looking at it on a computer monitor. You're looking at it within arm's length, probably. And my guess is you're probably zoomed in at least 100%, maybe 200%. So you obviously will see the noise. It's like taking a print and holding it up to your eyes and going, oh, wow, look, there's noise and there's grainy and this picture's kind of that's out of focus. Well, that's equivalent to what you're doing when you're looking at the monitor blowing it up 200%. So that's the first thing. So don't be all stressed out about noise. If there's ways to get rid of some noise, there's software and things like that. So don't get anal about the noise problem. In other words, what I've discovered is people will accept noisy or grainy pictures, but not blurry pictures. So if you have to crank up the ISO to be able to get a sharp picture, then do it. I mean, because if the shutter speed is so low that it's blurry, there's nothing you can do about that. It's just done. But if you have a picture that's got some noise in it, then there's some software and some things you can do. And like I said, they may not even notice it. The other thing that most people don't realize is that, do you realize that a 4K monitor, which may be what you're using, maybe you're not even using a 4K monitor, a 4K monitor is only capable of displaying an 8 megapixel file. So if you're using a modern camera, which is anywhere from 20, 24 megapixels is even the most basic cameras nowadays, or higher, you're not even seeing the full resolution of that image anyway. So when you zoom in and look at it, you're not even looking at a 24 megapixel picture. You're only looking at an 8 megapixel image. And then when you blow it up, you're looking at a 4 megapixel image, right? So if you go 100%. So my point is, don't be a pixel peeper and worry about the noise. Worry about the emotion, the storytelling, and the lighting. That will make all the difference in the world. It's not about, the only people that care about that kind of stuff, like I said before, is other photographers, and they just get crazy about it, and it makes no sense. So anyway, so don't spend too much time worrying about that. Okay. So the other one is, anyone using editing software that isn't Photoshop? I think I did answer this one last week, and I will show one of the photos. I use a couple of things. One of the programs I use, and the reason is, a lot of people ask me for alternatives. They'll say, hey, I'm not sure I want Photoshop. I'm not sure I want to go into a subscription. What else should I be looking at? And one of the programs that I use, in fact, that's what I'm going to be using tonight to do the magazine covers reviews, is it's called Affinity Photo, and the URL is affinity.serif.com. And this program is amazing. It's I don't know, for $49. I haven't found one thing that it will not do that Photoshop does. I think maybe the 3D possibly maybe is one of the things it doesn't, but I never use that in Photoshop anyway, so it's not a big loss. So anyway, that's one alternative. Um, if you want to consider doing something else other than Photoshop. Okay. All right, so let's look what else we got. All right, so James says, I'm thinking of trying to sell my pictures. How do I go about doing this? It's a tough market, James. I don't know if you're looking at fine art images. Fine art is probably one of the hardest and landscape are probably the hardest images to sell. But first of all, you got to have good work. The second thing is you've got to display it properly, and you've got to put a nice portfolio together so people, when they see your work, it's a complete body of work. You just don't want to have a few good pictures. You want to have a number of good. Now, it's better to have 10 really, really good pictures instead of 25 pictures and half of them are mediocre. So if you have to, it's the hardest thing we have to do as photographers, I believe, is edit our own work. And in fact, that's why I hire somebody to help me edit my work, because I'm too close to it. And so you need somebody that can look at it objectively and say, don't put this one in there, don't put that one in there. So that's kind of the first thing you really need to do if you're going to be selling your work, is have a really solid portfolio. I probably didn't answer your question, James, but that's without having more information, it's kind of hard to tell you where to go, especially without knowing what kind of work you're really looking, what kind of photography you actually do. Does anyone use, okay, so this was from Cassie, and she says, I might be laughed at for this. Does anyone use strictly Photoshop Elements? Yeah, absolutely. I know a lot of people that use Photoshop Elements. Photoshop Elements is one of the few products you can buy from Adobe that's not a subscription. And, it's gotten better and better and better. They keep adding more and more to it. So, absolutely, there's no reason you can't do that. Another program you could look at, and I don't think I have is called Luminar. It's the company is Skylum, SKYLUM.com, and they make an excellent editing program as well. It's kind of a cross between Lightroom and Photoshop, meaning it has a lot of the same things Lightroom does, but it also has layers, which Photoshop has. And that's also a product you buy one time and you don't have to pay for the rest of your life. So that's something to consider. All right, so Chelsea says, I got a couple wanting to do sunset pictures in June on the beach. I've never shot sunset. Any tips? Okay, so first of all, there are two kind of sunset pictures you can do on the beach. There's silhouettes, and then there's ones that are lit now or lighted. Obviously, I told you before, I light everything I shoot. So for me, a silhouette is going to be okay, but it's going to be very limiting. In other words, you're only going to have a few shots and they're all going to be silhouetted, and it's not going to give you much variety. So you want to have a speed light that you can have an off-camera light that you can use to light them. And what you do is you underexpose the background a little bit. You expose for the sunrise or sunset, and then you turn your flash on and you bring the exposure up on that flash so that it balances out. It brings up the exposure so they're no longer silhouetted. And that gives a really, really nice photo. Now, you can also do something where you take a gel, what's called a CTO gel. It's a color temperature orange gel. And you put that over the flash, and that will warm the gel up. Or you can also sometimes just change the camera white balance to cloudy, and that will also warm the image up a little bit as well. It's kind of a trick that we use. And of course, excuse me, if you're shooting raw, then you can change a little bit in camera raw to be able to warm it up. But it makes a really nice sunset image if you do that. Okay, Nina says, why do you lose quality when posted to social media? Because the image, first of all, you're probably uploading JPEGs. Now, a JPEG image is already compressed. So when you take an image and let's say you take it from your software and you save it, it's going to take it from a raw image. Let's say you're shooting raw, which is typically uncompressed, and it's going to compress it down. And I don't want to get too propeller geeky here, but it's going to take it from a 12 or 14-bit image and convert it to an 8-bit image. Well, that alone is going to throw out some of the colors. That's just the way it works. Then it's going to compress the image. Now, if for any reason you load that JPEG back in and you make a change to it and save it again, it recompresses it. So you're going to lose more quality. So what happens is when you take an image and you upload it to a social media, it's as a whatever, a JPEG, they're then going to take it and recompress it to save space. I mean, obviously, they're concerned about space, not about quality like you are. And so that's going to also deteriorate. So the trick is you want to find out what the standard size is for the social media site. I think I want to say, I may be wrong about this. I want to say that Facebook is like 2048, if I'm not mistaken, but look it up. Try and upload in the native size that the social media platform that you're uploading to wants, and that way it will do less compression. So if you have to, excuse me. Sorry about that. If you have to upload an image, then it's not, and let's say it's 2000 or 4000 by 4000 or 24 megapixels, and you upload it as a native file, as a full resolution, thinking you're going to get better quality. It actually works the opposite. What's going to happen is it's going to compress it. So if you send it up in the size it's expecting and natively, then it will do less compression. Hopefully that helps. Okay. Alexis says, I'm a beginning photographer. My question is how to stay motivated. Great question. Really great question. I wish I knew the answer. Next question. No. Um, it's hard. I mean, it's an artist thing. A lot of people have the same problem. You know, you don't just turn on creativity and that's it. It just flip of a switch. That's not the way it works. At the same time, you can't just sit around and wait for creativity to strike you in the head like a lightning bolt. So, a couple things that I would recommend. Number one, read, learn, learn other things other than photography. I mean, learn about philosophy or learn about something else and you'll get a lot of ideas from looking at other industries, other things that are done that are not photography related. That's the first thing. The second thing is develop a set of personal projects. So what I like to do is I like to have 2 or 3 personal projects in my head at any given time, probably more. Um, and I will try and get somebody else involved, maybe my friend James or somebody else, and I'll say I have this idea. The best thing is get a makeup artist or something like that if you're photographing people. And so what happens is then if you get other people involved, then they kind of spur you on. They're going to be like, "Hey, when we going to work on that project you've told us about? That sounds like a great idea. We love that. Yeah, I'm on board." And so what happens instead of you not, moping around and going, "Oh, it's too cold, it's rainy or whatever," you'll get motivated because there's other people that are kind of depending on you. So that's the second thing is get other people involved or get personal projects, have an idea, come up with look in magazines, online, Pinterest, whatever, come up with concepts. Even look at a magazine. Like I said, we're going to talk about magazine covers here in a little bit. Uh, Copy, mimic. Look at how they did that. Wonder how they did that. Try and recreate it. It won't be able to do it exactly, but the technique will give you an idea of something of how to learn and to experiment with. So anyway, those are 3 ideas. There's probably a lot more, but those are the 3 that I can think of off the top of my head on ways to kind of help me. So anyway, just being a curious person also has a lot to do with it. You really have to be inquisitive. I think as a photographer, one of the things I love the most is that you kind of get a chance to delve into other people's lives and their interest and things you wouldn't normally do, and that's I find very inspiring for me at least. Okay, so Nick has a Nikon D5300, a kit lens. Oh, I see. He's saying is the D5300 or the Canon EOS 7D Mark II for 12. I see he's comparing price $516 versus $1,225 worth buying an amateur for landscape and landscape timescapes. Well, first let's look at what the differences in the 2 cameras are. Initially, I would say no, it's not worth the difference. I would rather see you take that investment and put it in lenses. But the two cameras are not really in the same category, obviously, looking at the pricing. But let's start with the 7D Mark II. It's really a sports camera. It's a high frame rate camera. It has better ISO performance, and so it's really meant for the event photographer, wedding photographer, or sports photographer. I think it shoots 7 or 9 frames a second. I forgot what the number is. It's right around there. And the D5300 does not. It's still got the D5300 does have very good, pretty good ISO performance, but it's probably like 5 frames a second. So it still can be used for those kind of events, but it's not super, it's not a speed demon. So those are the big differences. The 5300 will do video. It has external mic input. I'm pretty sure the 7D Mark II does as well. And so for the kind of work you're doing, landscape and time lapses, I would say no, that the 5300 would be more than adequate to do what you want. It's a 24 megapixel camera. And so I would take that extra, 500 and some odd dollars and invest in another lens. That'd be my suggestion, Nick. Hope that helped. So, okay. Tamara says, how do you find uniformity in editing in Lightroom? Well, I've got one way a great way to tell you how to do that, and that is sign up for the workshop on the 29th, the photomentoracademy.com/Lightroom. That's one way to do it, and then I'll show you in real time how to fix that. But let's see here. Yeah. So the way you do it really, and you got to remember, it depends on what you mean by uniformity, but because every image is a little different. Now, you may do a shoot, a project, a wedding, or some kind of an event, or portraits, or family portraits. All those could sort of look the same. But if you shoot on one day, and then 2 days later you shoot on a different day, and it's cloudy on the second day but not on the first day, then there's not going to be uniformity because the images have a different look, a different feel. Now you can sort of match them if you want, but the idea is you really want you want the photo to represent the mood and the lighting and the emotion that you're trying to get out of that photo at that time. So there's not now, but if you're talking about uniformity between images of one particular project or one particular shoot done on the same day, there's a couple of tricks you can do. Number one, you want to kind of calibrate your camera. There's a way to go in and calibrate your camera. So what I've discovered is every camera I have needs a little bit of different, it works differently. So one camera may need more sharpening than another one. One may need a little bit more contrast than the other one. And so what you want to do is you want to figure out what that look is that you're going for. And I'm not talking about like a preset per se, although this would let you create a preset. Preset in the sense that people put toning and stuff on it. You just want to get the basics there. So if you're shooting raw especially, you want to get the basics of what that image is going to look like coming out of the camera and adjusted based on what your personal preferences, and store that. Then when you're importing the images, you can apply that preset to the import, and they'll all then pretty much match or become very close. Then you're going to go in. Now, you don't want to put white balance or things like that. And again, I'm going to go over this in the workshop. But the thing is, then you just want to make those additional tweaks based on on that unique image. You don't have to go through and make every change. So having some consistent workflow and a consistent importing preset gives you the ability to match your camera to the kind of look you're going for. I refer to this as learning the file. When I get a file in, I kind of learn it. It's like, wow, this one I need to sharpen a little more than this one, and this camera I kind of need to learn a little bit how the contrast is a little different. Even between the same cameras with the same model, but the different cameras can sometimes have a difference between the two of them. So you want to learn those files, adjust for them, and then save that setting, and you can apply to that camera every time those images, and that gives you a baseline. That's the first thing you want to do, Tamara. Okay. And Daniel asked, I think it's the last question. Daniel asked, why are lenses so expensive, i.e., Sony E mount 100 to 400 millimeter telephoto, $2,400? Well, that's a great question. And first of all, expense is relative. Okay, you got to remember now. So $2,400 to you may not be a lot of money to somebody that shoots professionally or charges more money than you do. Maybe if you're doing it as a hobby, then it's a little different than if you're doing this as a business. So that's the first thing. The second thing is you got to remember that these lenses are not made, they're not electronics. They don't just stamp them out like they do circuit boards. First of all, yeah, there's you should find on YouTube and go look up on a couple of Nikon or somebody and look up how lenses are made. You'll be amazed. So they start with this cylinder of glass that's poured. And this thing has to cure. And I forgot how long it is, but sometimes it's months and months and months they cure this glass. Then they take and they slice the glass into these discs. Then they put this glass on this polisher and this grinder, and it sits there and it polishes and polishes and polishes and polishes and gets that thing down so it's just perfectly. It's got to be perfectly round, or the shape has to be exactly the same. Obviously, that's why it's done by machine. So if there's what happens is sometimes there's air bubbles or imperfections in that glass. That means they have to throw that out. So it's a very expensive and time-consuming process, and that's one reason these lenses are so expensive. Now, the other thing is the bigger the lens, so that's why when you look at a lens that's like a 1.8 or 2.8 or 3.5, it's this big, and that lens can be a couple $100, but you go up to just let's say a 1.8 versus a 1.4 and 50 millimeter. Let's say a 50 millimeter 1.8 can run $100. I think the Canon is 125. I think the Nikon's about 219. But if you go from 1.8 to 1.4, which is not that big of a difference, the cost almost triples sometimes. Now, that's also because it's bigger, but it's also the build quality is different. So a 100 to 400 telephoto is probably one of their higher end lenses, and it's meant for wildlife photographers, sports photographers, things like that. So those are kind of adverse weather conditions. So that lens may also be weather sealed. So that would also contribute to the cost of the lens. So that's the reason. It's not a simple mechanical, just, hey, or electronic stamp them out. It's very, very time consuming. And that's why the really high end, the Zeiss lenses and the Leica lenses are so expensive, because they use the best glass and those things are polished perfectly. So anyway, hopefully that answers your question, Daniel. Okay, I think that's the last question. So let's move on. So as I said before, one thing we're going to do tonight is I'm going to go in and look at images from some magazines. I went through and I pulled some magazines. I happened to be in a bookstore, and I'm looking at the magazines and I'm going, this is something I've been thinking about doing anyway. So this would be a good subject for tonight's show. And now what's going to happen here is I'm going to look at these and I'm going to make my best guess. Now, there's no guarantees. I wasn't on this shoot. I don't have a lighting diagram, but I'm going to kind of reverse engineer these photos based on my knowledge and looking at some of the techniques I know that people use in lighting. So I'm going to come as close as I can. And then there's also some photoshopping and things that could be done that could throw you off. So this is just a guide. It's not a reference. It's not guaranteed, but hopefully I think you'll learn something from this. So again, as I mentioned before, someone who, in case you ask, the program I'm using to do this that I'm displaying is called Affinity Photo, and they also make a version that's called Affinity Designer and Affinity Publisher, which are very similar to Illustrator and InDesign from Adobe. So anyway, that's the program I'm using here tonight. Okay, so here's the first photo. This is a book that was written by Michael J. Fox, And I figured it'd start with this one because it's kind of a simple photo. The lighting's pretty basic. It's one light. And you can tell that because of the shadows. So let's look here. So let's go over, first of all, let's zoom in a little bit. Okay. So if you look at this is the first thing I do when I analyze a photo is I look at the shadows. So you look at this, there's a couple things you're looking for here. You're looking for where the shadow falls, okay, here, and you want to know, is it a hard shadow or is it a soft shadow? And in other words, is it, if you look, it's got a pretty abrupt fall off here. It goes pretty dark pretty quickly. So that tells me that it's a relatively small light source. So the bigger, and I'll show some other ones with some larger light sources. I think you'll see what I mean. It's probably over here. You can see where this other light is hitting him. Okay, right around here. So it's probably about a 45 degree or pretty close to that over where it's positioned. And then the other thing you can do is you can look at the catch lights. Now, this is, I'm sure you're not seeing this is blowing up here. That's kind of falling apart. But if you look there right here, you can see the light, and it looks, again, it's kind of hard to tell because it's not a very good quality image. But looking at the shape of it, it's probably, it could be an umbrella or it's most likely a softbox, be my guess. So let's see. And then also you want to, if you look at the, again, you can see where the highlight here is. Look at the shadows and right here and the creases. Okay, you can look where the shadow is here, and look at it along here where the shirt is, and the jacket, and you can see it falls off pretty quickly, and it's also pretty abrupt. So that would tell me that it's a relatively small light source. It's not huge. And there's some fall off on the back there, so that's probably got it feathered, meaning, when I mean feathered, what I mean is it's not aimed directly at him. It's kind of a little bit off-centered. So it's facing him, but it's also falling on the background. So that's probably, and you can also, the other thing to look for, now that I see this, is that if you look at this arm of this chair, you can see the highlight, okay, right here on this chair. That also gives you an idea of where the direction of the light is, because if it was further to the left, closer to then you wouldn't see this. The light would not be hitting this. So if you look at the angle, you can almost tell exactly where that light is coming from, the direction it's coming from. So anyway, hopefully that helps. Let's look at another one. Now this is one that from Bazaar Magazine. And this is considerably different. Obviously, this is a woman, and so the lighting would be a little bit different. You typically, not always, but you typically do not use such a hard light source when photographing a woman. But if you but look at the difference here in the shadow area. See how the how it falls off, but it's much smoother. There's more gradation here compared to the one with Michael Fox. So look at the difference. See how hard that light is and how much it falls off there compared to this one right here. So that tells me that this is definitely a larger light source, and it's also probably a little closer to her than the one that his was. You can also kind of go in and look at the catch light there. You can kind of tell. It looks like it might be more than one light. It's hard to tell because it looks like it's kind of elongated, which is kind of unusual. But it looks like it's a octabox possibly. That's one of the techniques you can use, is by looking at the catch lights in the eye. Sometimes you can tell a little more about what's going on there. But again, it's definitely one light that I can tell, and it's pretty broad. Got her face turned towards it. It's a fairly soft light. Again, look here at the light on the nose. You can see that it's soft. It's not very, because otherwise it would be much more abrupt. So Um, that's a good dead giveaway on that one there. You guys have any questions on this? Again, just let me know. You can leave it in the comments if you want to ask a question about this. Okay. Now here's one. This is a strange one. Okay. I haven't read Revelations lately, but I'm wondering if maybe the fact that Ozzy Osbourne is on GQ magazine means that we're at the end times. This is pretty bizarre. I never thought I'd say that day. Anyway, so Ozzy Osbourne on the cover of GQ, kind of weird. But anyway, let's look at the lighting on this. So it's pretty broad, okay? And there's actually two lights going on here, it looks like to me. Now, and the way I say that is because he's broadly lit, okay? See, there's almost no shadows here at all. So this is a pretty large light source, and or very close to him. You look at his hands here, there's really no shadow there. You can see a little bit of shadow under his chin, okay, which kind of, again, tells you the direction of this thing. Also, if you look at the catch light, you'll see there's a big, like an octabox here, and then also there's a sliver of light over to the left. I don't know if you guys can see that or not, but that also tells me that that there's second light. Also, because there's no shadow, because you can't. It's hard to get just all of this with one light. You can do it, but it's really difficult, because even if it's a large light source, or unless it's really huge, like a whole giant window light. And I think there's another light over here on this side. Maybe if you look here again, if nothing else, just a little bit of so this would be the key light coming from the right. And then I believe there is another light coming from the left, which is turned down about, maybe it's just a half a stop less than the one on the right. And that's given the fill light. So that's kind of how you can tell what's going on there a little bit. Again, look for little details, look in the watch, look in here. Always look for shadows in these areas, and that'll tell you, again, what area. So if you look right here, this is just, again, look at that shadow right there. It's, it's small, it's soft, really soft. So that's a very, very large light source to give that soft of a shadow. And it's also very close to him. And it's probably done on purpose. My guess is because, he's probably, I don't think his skin's that great, probably. And looks awful. Maybe it looks like it's retouched, or it's certainly got some makeup on. So anyway, that is Ozzy Osbourne on GQ. Like I said, I think we're in the end times. Okay, so this is a book cover. And obviously, this is with the Alex Trebek, late Alex Trebek from Jeopardy. And the answer is the name of the book. Kind of cool. And anyway, so this is very nice. He's very close to the background, which is unusual. Kind of leaning against the background. Look at the shadow here on the left-hand side, which again tells me it's a very large and very soft light source, because otherwise it would be casting a bigger shadow here. And you can see there's a shadow. Again, you can always look around the nose. If you look at the shadow around his nose and his chin, you can tell how high it's pretty high up. It's pretty, like, way up, much higher than a 45-degree angle up above, because the shadow is so low and it's not much there. If it was low, if the light was lower, it would be throwing more of a shadow to the left over here. And then again, let's go and look at if you look at the catch light, it looks like a pair of umbrellas based on what I can see here. This one over here is a little larger. And again, it looks like the umbrella on the right is at higher power than the one on the left. Again, this is hard to tell looking at the catch light, but just kind of speculating here, looking on what I know, how I would light this. and also the fact that there's fill light on this side. So he's got one light over here and another light over here. I like umbrellas. I use them a lot. Because they're portable, they're inexpensive. The ones that I recommend are the reversible ones. Photoflex makes some that I like. They're 20, 30 bucks, not too bad. And what I mean by reversible is they've got a satin or kind of a white interior and a black backing on them. And when you shoot the light into the umbrella, just like you think you would, and it bounces back, you have some control over it. You can move it if you want it to get on the background. You can it'll block the light. But if I'm photographing a group of people, or I need a large light source and a lot of light, you take off that backing, you reverse the light, meaning you reverse the umbrella. So if the umbrella is like this normally, and you got the light aiming into it, you turn it this way toward the subject, and now you got this big dome, and that spreads light everywhere. And so you can, with just one or two of those, you can cover a very large group, really fairly soft lighting, and they're easy, inexpensive, easy to carry. You don't have to set them up and do a bunch of stuff with them. So, because I typically, that's when I do all my magazine work, because I'm running light, don't have a lot of time with the subject a lot of times, and so I'll carry a couple of those with me instead of a bunch of lights. So anyway, I think that's what's going on here. Again, left-hand side, a little bit of shape, which is nice. It's not too flat, meaning the light on the left is lower. So you look at your, if you're thinking about a light meter or your ratio, your lighting ratio, if this is the proper exposure, let's just say, for example, this light here on the right was at, I don't know, half power, then let's say this light over here might be a quarter power, or maybe a little bit more. So it's fairly flat, but it's not too flat. I don't like flat lighting. I like it to have a little bit of depth. So what you're trying to do is you're trying to shape the face by giving it some shadow. You want shadow. Shadow is what gives a two-dimensional image of a camera looking like a three-dimensional image. And again, it's kind of high because it's got a little bit of shadow here, but it's not too dark of a shadow. Anyway, nice photo of him, I think. Okay, how are we doing here? I'm running out of time. Okay, so this one, again, one light, looks like to me. Dark shadow, look under the chin, which tells you now they're shooting at a low angle to kind of make him a stronger looking character, but also the light is fairly high because of the way the shadow is casting. If the light was low, down closer to the camera, there would be more light under his chin, which is sometimes I'll do that when I'm photographing a woman. I'll bring that light closer to the camera, bring it in around. Look, whoops, I guess that helps if I bring this, not showing you the picture here. Sorry, guys. I hope I didn't. I don't even know if I showed you this one here. Hopefully I wasn't yammering away. This is the one I was talking about here with the two lights on the left. On the left here, this one's about a half a stop less than the one on the right, it looks like. And this is the key light. This is the fill light, and that kind of fills it in. So sorry about that. I didn't have that camera on. So this is a light here. This is, again, one light, high angle, shooting up on this gentleman to kind of give him a little bit stronger look. One light, again, I'm saying it's rather high because look at the shadow. It's a relatively small light source because it's a hard light. But then you can kind of go in here and look at the catch light. Looks like, again, maybe an octabox. It's kind of hard to tell. But one light, that's it. There may be a light on the background unless they're unless they are using a second light on the background, but I don't know. It's hard to tell on that one. Okay, we only have two more. So the second one, this next one, again, this is a little unusual for photographing a woman. I typically would not do this, but this is a very hard light, okay? And it's off to the side. It's not brought around. It's pretty far off to the right of the camera, off camera right. And there's a couple of things interesting about this photo. Number one, look at how deep the shadow is. Okay, that's the first thing. So it's a relatively light source, a small light source, and it's, again, as I said, it's brought out to the right of, it's brought camera right, almost, to this edge of her. But the other thing that's interesting about this photo, and I don't know, it's sometimes retouchers will take out of there's no catch lights, and that may be because it's too far off to the right. Also, this right here, a little suspicious to me. I'm not sure what's going on there. I may be wrong about that. But if the light is so far off to the side and the shadow is so dramatic, this eye here would almost be in shadow. It would almost be completely dark, which is not something you typically want to do. So I'm wondering if this is photoshopped or something, or I guess it could be right, but it does look a little strange to me that this is, and it's also just like one little spot of light. So that's, again, I'm a little suspicious of how this one was shot. But again, small light source off to the right, and that's pretty much it. Okay, the last one is old here, Oprah. And this one's got a lot of work on it, a lot of stuff going on. So first of all, the first thing I look at, the hair light. See the hair light here so that's a light. That's a light on the background there. It's lighting her hair, highlighting that right there. Also, you look on her back. You can see the light here across her back. So that separates her from the background. That's the purpose of having that hair light. The second thing is she's very flatly lit. In the sense that all this hair in her cheeks and stuff like that is probably makeup or retouching. So it's probably a little bit of dodging and burning going on there to bring out that highlight. And so you can see that if you look at you can see there's a little bit of shadow over here on her nose, which tells you that the light was up to the left. And it's a pretty large light source again. And it looks up here, it looks like it's dual. It's like it's two umbrellas or two soft boxes, two octaboxes to be able to give you that level of softness. And of course, it's been retouched, which is fine. And you can take out some of the shadows or lighten some of the shadows when you do that, which makes it a little harder to tell that this has been. We know exactly what the lighting is there, but it's a very flattering picture, obviously. And but the thing to keep in mind on all these is where you have the subject looking. Okay, in other words, in relationship to the light, I always try and start with something like this, where I will have the light off to one side, and I'll have their shoulders turned. Now this one's not, but her shoulders turned toward that light, but their head and facing the camera. So this is somewhat maybe referred to as broad lighting, but that if you notice, illuminates the majority of the face, as opposed to something like this, which does not. So anyway, just one technique, and again, you can try at different angles, different sides, moving around, and see what you think. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. You just have to see. Okay, so that was my attempt at forensic lighting tonight, and we're going to do some more of this. I'll try and find some other images. Maybe I'll pull some of my own out, because I obviously know how I lit them, if I can remember, and we'll do some stuff there. But anyway. So, again, don't forget, first Friday of the month, we do the photo reviews. So submit your photos, up to 3 images. The reviews are anonymous. We'll look at them on composition, technical, and subject matter. You can send them to help@photomentor.tv with the subject review in there. And the other thing is, don't forget the sign up for the workshop, free Lightroom Workshop. That's going to be a lot of fun. photomentoracademy.com/Lightroom. And be sure and sign up for that. That's going to fill up fast, and I don't want to have, if it's too many people in there, then you won't be able to ask your questions. So I want to make sure that we, again, it's probably going to be two sessions, Friday and Saturday. You can select which one you want. I'm not sure if the Saturday is going to be a replay or it's going to be live. We'll see how, maybe if I screw it up really bad on Friday, then I'll want to do a better job on Saturday, so we'll do it live. I don't know. But anyway, be sure and check that out, and want to see you for the workshop. Again, check out, if you're interested in joining us over on the Facebook group, photomentor.tv/join. Fill out that application, and we'd love to have you join us over there if you're a new photographer and you're looking for some help. Again, thanks very much. Appreciate it. Be sure and share this page, also the channel for the YouTube channel. And again, we'll see you again next week.